like I was saying, we're a peer learning network. We are a neutral convener. I would say we're working to be a thought leader in the space. We're trying to create resources for management to build capacity. And we are like a strategy partner, very often kind of a political strategy partner. And so as you see here, even though there are these sites right close to in that 40 range, the challenge is that most of these sites are probably 5 years or younger. And so the importance of management like to this network and really having it be about people and not necessarily the sites themselves or even like the species that swim around in the water is because you've really taken the same kind of expertise base that you had in 2010 and simply spread it over a wider array of sites. Only now are the humans, right, being able to build their capacity to understand how to really operate in this space. And so that's why Big Ocean continues to double down on the human dimensions of large scale. How we work, we do various kinds of activities, site diagnostics, which is in essence a site, they might have a need, we find the expertise, whether that's within our network or others, and bring them to the table. Technical support, collaborative research and documentation, workshops and symposia, site-to-site and exchanges and peer learning exchanges. And we have other kinds of activities now that we're working on with partners, such as working to develop like an online library specific to large scale. And then the social science elements of large scale, such as the human dimensions, we're working on a survey in that vein. Some of the bright spots of what we've been able to achieve, I think, first off, we're simply a network that has survived. We're 13 years old. Despite, I would say, the political challenges, as an example, one of the sites that I mentioned as being a founding site is the Phoenix Islands Protected Area. I would think, as most people attending this conference know, I'm not making a statement of the status of the Phoenix Islands Protected Area. I don't stand for, I'm not a spokesperson for them, but there's really questions as to whether that site is really going to remain viable at all. So not all of the sites have made it through. Additionally, I would say, British Indian Ocean Territory, that's a very different political context, but clearly, as you've just seen in the news, there are questions of, the British government and the Mauritanian government, and exactly what will happen in terms of political sovereignty, and of course, the marine protected area falls within that. So the politics at scale are significant, so I think that it's really an achievement to have maintained trusted relationships for 13 years, so I'd say that's a bright spot. The photo that you see here is our second think tank. We did the first one in 2011 in Aotearoa, New Zealand, as part of the ICCB. And it was a 3-day think tank where we brought together scientists and managers to really talk about the biophysical elements of large scale. And we actually produced a research agenda for large scale sites. And so this is the second. This was a think tank on the human dimensions. And so as you guys can see, we brought 125 participants from 17 countries. 10 of the world's large scale marine protected areas were represented. And the photo, as you can see for yourself, we brought together a diverse group. So we've really been working to push the learnings within the space and then to produce resource materials, right, that can grow capacity. I would also say other highlights are these peer learning and its site exchanges. So here's where the Juan Fernandez community actually came to Hawaii. They spent a week there. They went to the NOAA offices where Papahana Mokuakea and the Office of National Marine Sanctuaries are. They met with our local partners. We shared how you make relevant. There's these very remote spaces, right, that are usually quote unquote unpopulated, even though they aren't necessarily unpeopled in a cultural or a heritage sense, but will actually bring managers together physically We have also had more recently, in partnership with the Blue Nature Alliance, an Ocean Managers Exchange in Honolulu, where we brought managers, once again from around the world to really share lessons learned. And I would also say, as you can see here, culture is a significant component of Big Ocean. It was birthed out of, it was a brainchild of Aulani Wilhelm while she was a superintendent for Papahānaumokuākea. And the Pacific ultimately is the birthplace, I would say, of large scale. So I think we definitely are a thought leader in this space of being able to be a neutral convener and create safe spaces to really talk about culture and indigenous-led conservation and to push the envelope on that. So I think that's another bright spot. How am I on time, Kate? All right. Then I would say, in terms of key takeaways or lessons learned, I think it's this dedication to always really keep looking forward in terms of navigation. Yes, we want to create, solid, tangible resources, such as the guidelines that we created. Yet at the same time, we're always adapting.
And it's a network of marine protected areas in our small but beautiful Mediterranean Sea. And our vision is an healthy marine and coastal ecosystem under decreasing threat. Why I stress and underline this point is that you may know the Mediterranean Sea as one hotspot in the world. We have endemic species, we have beautiful ecosystem, but nevertheless they are under serious threat. It's one of the most, I would say, visited sea in terms of tourism, in terms of shipping industry, but as well in terms of economic activities such as fisheries. So what we do want to achieve through our network and with our partners is an appropriate protection both in the Mediterranean and in the global seas, because we do value the cooperation and the exchanges with other networks in order to provide sustainable goods and services for the well-being of the present and future society. Because again, what we want to achieve is for the benefits of an healthy Mediterranean Sea, but as well healthy and growing communities. So MedPan is a dynamic and human cooperation network at the Mediterranean scale, and that transcends the political barrier. And this is, again, very important. The value of this peer-to-peer network that works at technical level and that can actually overcome political issues. And you may know that we face sometimes very hard and difficult political issues and even war currently in our region. It's a science-based learning and adaptive organization with a bottom-up approach, because again, the whole point is to invest, to value, and to promote the human factor, the human dimension of such a network. So we want to actively contribute to achieve a representative, connective, and integrated network. So all the work, the activities we deploy are definitely driven for the sake of supporting the practitioner on the ground and at sea, the countries, the regional and sub-regional organization, to make sure that this regional sea is becoming healthier. So to date, the network is bringing together 130 organizations, and this represents organizations from 21 countries and more than 190 managed MPA. So what we do in a nutshell, we contribute to improve the knowledge on our beautiful sea in order to better understand what is the status of the ecosystem and the species, but as well what are the key drivers of threats, but as well best practices. We are for that to develop an MPA database in order to better assess after each 4 cycle years how are we doing actually. We take the pulse of this sea in order to see if anything is improving or unfortunately sometimes getting worse. We build capacity and we share solutions, and this is a key pillar of MedPan network, because again, our main aim is to invest and to promote this human factor. So we are providing capacity building activities. We organize a workshop, but we organize as well peer-to-peer exchange so that the marine practitioner can learn from each other. And because we know that we need to find the way that we pass the baton as well, we have organized a regional hub of capacity building in order to scale up our effort in terms of capacity building. So we train, we organize activity, but we make sure as well that there is a continuity of this effort of capacity building. Because we have to be aware of the importance of the legal framework, and we want to support the implementation of the legal framework, we deploy as well policy-oriented activities, and at all levels. What I could mention here is, for instance, the fact that we have jointly elaborated a post-2020 roadmap, and this roadmap has been elaborated since, and thanks to a huge I would say collaborative effort. For several years, we have consulted our network, our members, our partners, in order to see how we could do better on key topics. And thanks to this very collaborative effort, we have been able to identify 6 strategic topics in order to improve the situation of the Mediterranean Sea. And we articulated these 6 strategic objectives into actionable recommendations so that everybody at all levels can be inspired by this actionable recommendation, implement them at their own level. In order to be more specific and to give more hints about how things could be deployed, we have as well elaborated the policy paper that is echoing this 6 objective strategic and providing, again, actionable recommendation to see how the current legal frameworks, from the local to the national, the regional, and the European, could be improved.
Have 2 different, we are from different worlds. We see the world differently. I see it from not New Zealand perspective or Aotearoa perspective. I see it from a Te Aotearoa perspective, knowing my tuakana here from different iwi. Nei rā te mihi atu rā kia koutou. Ara ka patua te moana, ka hoia te moana, ka kaua te moana, ka rotu te moana, ngā hu te pōkea, ngā hu tuku iho tēnā, ko te hau, ka papaku ko te hau, a te ahi. Ko ia te moana nui te hoi, ko ia te moana roa te hoi, ko ia te moana tai rangaranga te hoi, ko tāko hoi nei ko turu ko uti. Kaitarangi hiki tea, kaitarangi apainga tōne ki tanga kai te puke ukurangi. Tēnā tēnei tau au, tēnā tēnei matui mi tā wiki a rea kia tamu i te ao marama. E rongo whakairi he ki runga turu o uti waka maua kia tīnā huie taiki. I titled today, I want to remember Waitangi Day. And back home is the 6th of February, as our people, some would say they celebrate, but for us, it is a reminder of a relationship that was signed way back in 1840 of 2 governing partners. One was a British sovereignty, who we did not cede our total authority or tino rangatiratanga to. But also, I was amazed about Alani's kōrero yesterday, and particularly her thoughts around te pō and te ao. And the way we see as te ao Māori, te pō, te ao. So it kind of coincides with this. We, our people, our nations, Pacific nations, have a strong connection as a holistic worldview. From te pō, te ao, day and night. There's a saying, he tātai arorangi, he kaiara taki te rā. It is the celestial bodies that will determine our activities of the day. And every year our tohunga go to the mountains and look towards the heavens to understand the rise of the stars known as Matariki. Our Hawaiian brothers and sisters, our Pacific brothers and sisters are so familiar and understand the celestial bodies to determine the directions of where they're going to go. And mihi rawa tura ki ape. This is about understanding for us as iwi Māori. We look to our spiritual connections to guide us into determining where we go. To understand your future, you must understand where you've come from to where you are presently. That lays the foundation for the future. I, and like many of my whanaunga from Aotearoa, in 1769, Captain Cook arrived on our back doorstep. It was a change in two worlds meet. The Avatar is a classic example of that. How one world tries to destroy another. And so, for the last 183 years, there has been one world that has been dominating our world. What we understand in terms of the double hull canoe, that, as you see up on the screen there are two different canoes. One canoe sits with the colonizers, the government and organizations. The other canoe sits with us indigenous nations. Both canoes are going in different directions. Why? Because they are brought up in totally two different worlds, two different understandings, two different narratives. Where we have policy, LAW, always conflicting against tikanga, LORE. The dominant one that has often been dominant in Aotearoa has been the government and organisations. With the Treaty of Waitangi, there are 4 articles, in fact 3 articles in the English, because they couldn't understand the 4th article in the Māori. And the first article talks about participation, in fact partnership. Don't ask me about partnership because I don't know, we've never been given the opportunity to partnership. Ask any iwi in Māori, in Te Ao Māori. We've never been given the opportunity. But the fight and discussion we're having is between these words, ka wanatanga and tino rangatiratanga, where governance is challenging total autonomy. And no doubt that's happening on Waitangi, back at home, right now, where they're still discussing the difference between tino rangatiratanga and ka wanatanga. I love the concept of co-design. As long as the co-design starts right from the very beginning, from a thought. Not at the consultation stage where they want sign-off from our nations. We as iwi are over that. We want to co-design, we want to be right there at the front. We want to be making those decisions. And the one thing about this is that when you're dealing with government organisations, please, and we've said, don't send your tier level, your tier 3, tier 4 managers to come and talk to our chairman or our CEO. This is about rangatira ki te rangatira, chief to chief, chairman to chairman, CEO, CEO. Simple as that.
Tūtira mai ngā iwi, tātou tātou e, whai a te maramatanga, me te aroha e ngā iwi, kia kutapatahi, kia kutahira, tātou tātou e, tātou tātou e. Unite, O nations, let us all stand as one. Let us seek out the spiritual pathway of enlightenment so we may unify and we may work collectively as one. Kia ora tātou. I just want to leave this saying, I was asked to say something about what it means for me to be Māori. And I just want to read it. Once a product of another generation punished for being uniquely Māori. Full of pride, denied my language, denied my identity, denied and inheriting intergenerational whakamā. Shame. A product of missed opportunities, not being part of the rise of the Kohanga Reo Nation, our total immersion education system. Told to leave my culture at the door and hearing that there is no place for that mumbo jumbo in this organisation. Fighting internally, screaming for my identity, for my heritage, for my taranakitanga. Today I refuse to leave my heritage at the door. It comes with me wherever I go. It walks with me every second of the day. It walks with my children, and it protects my mokopuna, my grandchildren, deeply embedded into the future. I say that because we have been talking about intergenerational. It's time to put aside our 3 to 5 year strategies. It's time to get real people and start planning for your 100-year strategy. When we're talking about intergenerational growth, we at home are looking for the next 100 years, next 150 years. We have to plan like that because it does not sit within a government system. We as mana whenua here, of our tribal boundaries, owners of the land at home, and particularly where I live in the House of Government that sits in my backyard, Prime Ministers, Presidents, governments come and go. They will change every 3 years at home. At the end of the day, we as the local nations of our tribe will always be there. Start planning for 150 years whānau, because we ain't going away. Kia ora tātou, tēnā koutou, kia ora tātou katoa.